Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. This episode of Slam the Gavel is sponsored by CPS Protect Consulting Services. A child protective services case is one of the most frightening experiences for any parent. Don't face it alone. Face it with confidence with urgent assist by CPS Protect. You can have access to former CPS investigators to make sure you preserve your rights and protect your family. If you're facing CPS involvement and aren't sure where to turn, their child welfare consultants can help you. Visit cpsprotect.com/subscribe and enter the coupon code SLAMTHEGAVEL for 10% off your first year of urgent assist, which is available in all 50 states. They can help you. I have another announcement. Bradley's mother narcostolen passed away 5 months ago. He is autistic and needs structured routine and therapies he receives for his autism 6 days a week. However, Italy just entrusted Bradley to Italian social services in their infinite wisdom. If he is ruled to go back, he will face the next 3 to 4 years in the Italian foster care system where he can't speak or understand the language. He will then be taken away from the only family he has ever known. And this is in the judge's infinite wisdom and best interest of the child. Please call Governor Hochul at 518-474-8390. That's Governor Hochul, New York State, at 518-474-8390. And please call the senator too to please keep Bradley safe here in these United States. Hashtag keep Bradley safe. I am happy and very proud to have Mother Alisha Clark Walker back on my podcast. The last time she was on was episode 65 of season 4, March 29th of 2023. We discussed where her case was dismissed. She's an alienated mother from her children via Judge Anthony McGinty, New York State, as children given to registered sex offender and BDSM power more. And what is also going on that we are going to discuss is her violations of her First Amendment rights and the exposure that Judge McGinty doesn't like in family court in the New York State. And the judge is and has no accountability whatsoever. There's been a recent order that they want to imprison her with no due process, and she wasn't even properly served. They want her to pay $140,000 in 60 days or imprisonment. And that is also under the scorched earth policy, which is something that's new to me. Apparently, the ex and attorney Leslie Silva filed this scorched earth policy and they want her imprisoned. And apparently this can happen because Judge McGinty has no accountability. And a criminal has more rights than a mother or father in New York State. No one has any rights here in New York State. I welcome you back, Alisha Clark Walker. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me again on your show.
I'm very sorry you are going through this. No one should go through this no due process. The scorched earth policy, that's something I've never heard of. And also, you're going to have a press release, which is in process, and gives links to all the judges' abusive behavior, the mugshot of your ex, and all these motions. We'll talk about all of this. You take the lead. I'll listen.
Yes. So the press release is out to see the order and all the information that backs up my claims on this lack of due process and this scorched earth policy by Leslie Silva, my ex, Luke Walker, and Ulster County Judge McGinty, who was pushed up into Rensselaer County, which is my case, and that's Walker versus Walker in the Supreme Court. And the order can be found in this press release, which maybe we'll put a link below on the YouTube, which you can find all the documentation for this for this very egregious retaliatory order by Judge McGinty. So this order, and I've been on your podcast before, so this came after that I've been on your podcast and a few others about Judge McGinty and parental alienation and his very biased decisions in favor of this convicted rapist. So currently I have not seen or talked to my children in over 2 years. And during the trial, just as a summary, during the trial, Judge McGinty ordered myself a declared four-person status with the New York State court systems. So the judge basically ordered a four-person status for myself because of lack of income, which my ex stole our very successful family business, and I have that link on that press release as well. A separate lawsuit that's pending in front of the Supreme Court. So basically, the judge knew that I don't have any income. I have zero income right now due to the theft of the family business. And Judge McGinty in December, in his trial and decision, decided and ordered for me to pay $160,000 in, or I'm sorry, $140,000, $139 to be exact, to pay in 60 days to my ex. Don't know many people at all with $140,000 sitting in their bank account. And in the same order, he ordered me a poor person status, which is basically, you know, you have to fill out an affidavit saying, you know, I have no income and nothing in my bank account. So it was, I feel like it was a retaliatory order because I sued Judge McGinty right before trial. He did not recuse himself. And I feel like it was retaliatory because I sued him in a 1983 case for violation of civil rights, including the First Amendment, because I have been vocal about how this judge favors registered sex offenders and sex workers. So I believe it was in retaliation, and this is, you know, this is the topic of conversation that I want to have today, of how much power and control that these judges have. And there's literally no accountability whatsoever in our state of New York. None. You can sue a judge, he can put gag orders on you, and he can retaliate against you and put you in jail. And there's nothing you can do about it in New York State. You can appeal to the third division, which is currently pending. And I appealed to the third division. I requested a stay with Judge McGinty, and which means have all the orders just stay till a higher court can hear the case. And Judge McGinty denied it. I made a lot of arguments for a recusal motion. I've asked him to be recused from my case due to conflict of interest. He's obviously been covered in the media, not by me, but by other women as well. He's been sued by multiple women for abuse of power. He's been written up into the New York Times as an abusive judge who favors abusive men. And I asked him to recuse himself on that, and he didn't. So you can sue a judge for violation of your civil rights, due process, and he's still on the bench and sitting on my case after, you know, how can you not? How can one not be biased if you're being sued and, you know, you're being talked about all over the media. I don't understand how that's not a conflict of interest in the case. And so obviously I didn't have $139,000 to pay my ex sitting in a magical bank account. And so the judge said that I was willful and not paying these fines. And so he ordered 90 days per violation in contempt. So the facts are that he ordered imprisonment without even a response to this order, without even being properly served by the attorney, without a hearing, without representation in New York, and I believe most other states. If you're sentenced to jail, you have a right to an attorney. And I didn't even get that. And the judge knows he can get away with it. I've sent numerous complaints about judicial abuse and legal abuse to the Center for Judicial Conduct, and everything's ignored. I've sued this judge for violations of due process and civil rights in the federal courts. Walker versus McGinty, 2022. You can look it up. If you Google that, it'll pop right up. And the federal courts dismissed it before it was even heard.
Typical.
And because there has been many other lawsuits against these state actors, including the attorney for the child and including this judge, what I have noticed over the last couple of years, including my case when I was doing other case research, that the federal courts now have a pattern that I'm seeing in New York where they are dismissing most pro se lawsuits as frivolous before they're even heard. So the federal courts are protecting these state lower court actors, on this egregious violations, of the citizens. Because it's if they can get away with it, I'm sure this is happening, and it is. And mothers and fathers and citizens are trying to sue, these judges for their violations of their civil rights, and they're all being dismissed without even being heard on the federal court level. During this, one other quick note, during this trial, the attorney for the child, when I was on the stand, became very aggressive towards me. His name is Douglas Broda, and he was getting in my face and spitting on me, and Judge McGinty allowed that, as well. And also in this press release, the father had sexually assaulted a court-ordered supervisor. This court-ordered supervisor testified during trial, and Judge McGinty said her testimony was, invalid as well. So you have a judge that's encouraging, registered sex offender to, get away with sexual assault towards ordered supervisors. And this is how egregious it is. And I have that testimony in the press release as well. Good. So you can see it for yourself. So the judge allowed attorney for the child to get physical with me on the stand, be aggressive towards me, and the father to sexually assault other women. And there's absolutely, and he get away with it in New York State. Who do you go to? You know, when you make complaints against to the Center of Judicial Conduct and you federally sue them and it's dismissed without even being heard.
Mhm.
Yeah, the judge is not going to like that and is going to imprison me or try to. That's for sure.
You know, also in my federal court case, just so you know, the judge admitted to not looking at my evidence and just ruled it irrelevant. So I think parents all over should be aware that if you try to take it into federal court and try to have some type of justice for your family,
Mhm.
federal court is failing families.
Yes, they are. And my lawsuit, I sued the Judge McGinty for numerous violations because Judge McGinty had put a gag order on me for, obviously not wanting to speak to the media about these facts. And that's a clear violation. I put it into the federal court systems, and just like your case, it was dismissed before it was even heard as frivolous. And it was a 33-page lawsuit with tons of evidence. Like, I didn't just write to the federal courts and crayon that this judge is mean to me. I put a lot of time and effort.
Mhm.
Paid the $400 in filing fees. I don't even, don't really have, let alone $160,000. And this imprisonment is pure retaliation, on the judge because I have ignored these illegal gag orders. So yeah, parents should be aware that in New York State, the judge can literally order you to mow his lawn, and if you don't, he can send you to prison, and there's nothing you can do about it in New York State. Nothing. Because there's no accountability anywhere in New York State.
Mm-mm.
From the federal courts, letting these rogue judges just run wild. And a lot of local media keeps, not all, but most local media doesn't pick up my stories because they don't want the people to know how just egregious these judges are, with their orders, and they know they can get away with literally anything and with no accountability in New York State.
Do you think they're also in fear of retaliation of what they could do to their newspaper company if they release something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course, judges are protected. Judges who are protecting rapists are protected from the federal courts all the way down to local any local person, as far as media goes. They're protected all the way down the line. Judges can literally order you to do anything in New York State, and if you don't follow the rules, and that's what's a little bit scary. These lower court judges have the most power in these divorce courts. Murderers have more rights in New York State than mothers with no criminal history. I didn't break a law. I did not break a law, and in being sentenced, to jail for not even breaking. I didn't even break a law, and I don't have a lawyer. I don't have due process. I'm not even heard on the matter. It's pure retaliation, and we're not even breaking the law. And murderers have at least a trial, a jury by trial, and it's this one judge in the lowest courts making these decisions, and putting parents in jail for contempt,
Uh-huh.
making these orders so egregious. You
At
know, here's
taxpayers'
some,
expense.
and it's a pure act of retaliation, and conflict of interest, and he gets away with it, and you know,
I wonder how he'd be getting away with this if the taxpayer really knew what he was doing to parents and overcrowding the jails, the prisons, on frivolous contempt charges. If I was a taxpayer, I don't know, I'd be down there wanting to talk with somebody in that courthouse.
well, here's the thing, since he was the New York, this is a very interesting point that you brought up, because the Times-Union, which is our local Albany newspaper that covers a lot of politics, just recently last week before the holiday did a piece on this, which is really interesting, is that Judge Anthony McGinty wasn't even voted into Rensselaer County. He came from a different county. The judges who be sent a judge who's not even in the county, several counties away, many hours away, into Rensselaer County, not even a voted on judge, and putting its citizens in jail without due process, without even proper service, you know, and he wasn't even voted into Rensselaer County.
Yeah. Do you think they put him there just to get him out of there and stop the embarrassment?
You know, possibly. I think there's something to that, because if you look at the Times-Union article, maybe we can link it below. That's what the judicial powers who be, whoever that is, they cover that they don't have any transparency. So Judge Keene, who's a local Rensselaer County judge that the Times-Union had covered, got in trouble for allegedly a hostile work environment. So she was moved out of Rensselaer County and put into a different county. So they're playing musical chairs with these judges. If they do something really egregious in their county, they're going to put them in another county. Hopefully, you know, everything remains quiet with no transparency. Nobody knows why. And that's covered in the Times-Union. The Times-Union reached out to the head justice in the third department, which I'm in, and they're not giving any reason why, you know, or it's kind of like, you know, the Catholic priests, you know, kind of, you know, if you do bad, we're going to try and hush this up and move you to somewhere far away, and hopefully you have hopefully, you know, your misconduct goes away quietly. But a bad judge is a bad judge, and he's going to make really bad retaliatory decisions, you know, against a mother with no criminal history, against, you know, a convicted rapist, jail time, because, you know, he's being exposed for this retaliatory, you know, order. But, you know, the father still wants the mother imprisoned, which is, you know, I think a tribute to his character, right? The lawyer still is writing these orders in front of the judge for imprisonment, Leslie Silva, which is a testament to her character.
Is she a mother? Do you know? Is she?
She is.
Well, you know, does she know that this can happen to her? What's going on with you can happen to her.
Yes, but I don't think she's thinking about that. I think she's thinking about her second home somewhere, in her car payments. And, you know, my ex has spent well over $140,000 based on his subpoenas to pay her over the past 5 years of these orders. So for him, it's worth it. You know,
And
he
she's a,
spent literally
yeah,
what I've owed him. But that's the narcissist
right.
personality. That's the
And,
sociopath,
and she too is a sociopath. She has an amoral personality disorder.
yeah, clearly. It's in retaliation, too, because I'm as vocal as I can be, because if it can happen to me with no criminal history, no mental health history, even though that's a clear violation, of civil rights, being in prison for $139,000 that I clearly don't have, that everybody knows. I don't know many people that do have $139,000 sitting in their bank account, to willfully not pay someone. It's crazy, the lack of, abuse by these attorneys and judges, and you hear this stuff all the time. I'm not the only person, and it's not a gender thing. I hear from men too that's being imprisoned for debtor's prison for not being able to pay child support or whatever. I mean, it's a real problem across the board in New York, and I hear a lot of people. Other people have sued, this attorney for the child, and have sued Judge McGinty. As far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, I'm sorry, I have seen I've seen dozens of complaints against this judge, and every single time, I've seen them, the Center for Judicial Conduct just releases a standardized letter. I've seen the same standardized letter from the Judicial, conduct over and over again. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why Judge Keene was was problematic and got trouble is because, of something she did to an employee, not even to a parent, even though Judge Keene has been sued in the federal courts as well. So, and she barely won her election in Rensselaer County, but Alicia was voted in and out. Judge McGinty was not even voted into Rensselaer County to conduct business, and he's putting Rensselaer County taxpayers to prison without a jury, without trial, without a lawyer, without due process, without even wasn't properly served. I never even received this motion in person, which is what you're supposed to do if you're looking to get imprisonment, and he signed it right away, like within 48 hours on his desk. He signed whatever Leslie asked for, because it's I think pure retaliation.
Or does he have something going on with Leslie? I mean, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. It's just, it's odd, that I had all this testimony and evidence during trial, and he just, dismisses everything. I've had court ordered actually, witnesses saying, yes, the father sexually assaulted me. And and Judge McGinty goes, la la la, like, I don't know what to say other than possibly bribes has been
paid off.
I mean, my ex-husband, since he stole the family business, is doing, it was a very successful company, and he's paid already $140,000 well over 150 actually to his attorney over the past 5 years.
Oh,
Um, and I think it's a little bit of too, like, I feel like it's a little bit of pro se discrimination
oh yes.
in there as well.
Oh yeah.
That lawyer is going to show up to court again, whereas he'll never see me again, or more, he's going to send me to jail. So, I could go kick rocks, where this lawyer and these law firms, they have to work together. So it's a little bit of pro se discrimination. I think it's a bias. He was already in the New York Post, and the link is below, for having so many lawsuits that favors abusive. This judge in particular loves abusive men with criminal history.
Mhm.
Gave him, let alone full custody, and put the mother in jail. And he was already known to do this type of behavior, and and I believe gotten into some hot water over that post, and so they took him out of Ulster County, or not. I think he still has a few cases down there, but then shipped him to a county far away. And hoping that everything will just die down in the media, because he's known to be an abusive judge, a biased judge. By many other women. This particular, I don't know, maybe this judge has addiction problems of his own. I
Mhm.
mean,
What
it's
else is
like trying to figure out why people are crazy,
right?
Like, I don't know.
Oh, I think there's a lot of
He
personality disorders in this field.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. It makes no sense to me when you put it on paper. A displaced homemaker
Mhm.
sentenced to jail time with no criminal history, no mental health history, just because I, speak out and expose some of this, gross misbehavior, gross misconduct by these lower court judges. And it's really sad, for all of New York and all of its citizens, that there's no due process. The lowest court judge continue to jail
Oh, yes.
if you don't doesn't like you. If he can
Right.
literally say,
It's
you need to mow my yard, or I'm going to put you in jail.
it's
And
almost like
nobody
a
can
a
do it.
vendetta on these parents and you.
Yes, it is a vendetta. I think if you speak out, against the system, I personally believe that's where a lot of this is coming from, is
Mhm.
because I am so vocal. I've had gag orders by Judge Keene put on me, and Judge Rivera, and Judge McGinty. All three of them have put illegal gag orders, on me, and I have, put that in the federal courts as a violation of my First Amendment. And it is just all dismissed on the federal court level. So they are all protecting each other from
Mhm.
up to down.
And
Judges are protecting lawyers, and the
mm,
lawyers are, protecting judges. And the Bar Association doesn't do anything. The Center for Judicial Conduct doesn't do anything. You can have as many press releases, and they're just like, okay, well, and I believe even in the Michael Valva case, I think that judge, he might be retired now, I don't know, but if anybody's aware of the Valva case, where the custody was given to the abusive father, and he was eventually killed, and that, I know that judge got removed from that case, but sat on a different case for a while, was still conducting business. I don't know the current status now, but he was, after the case, still just moved again to a different county, and that's what New York does. They just shift a bad judge to a different county, and hopefully they won't mess up in that county, which they weren't even voted into office into these different counties. And there's no transparency in New York State.
No, there isn't.
They won't issue how many complaints the judge has, or why were they removed, or any documentation. They're protected. They could do whatever they want. Judges, especially divorce judges, family court judges, can literally do whatever, order whatever they want with no accountability in New York State.
Right. And they'll even write an order and say they're writing an order, but then they don't sign it. And then more crap happens to you.
Yeah. They play a lot of games.
Uh-huh.
And even New York State also is one of a few states where cameras are not allowed in the courtroom too. So that's a problem. One of the few states. New York State, sometimes you can sue a judge and go after what's called their bonds in New York State, their insurance bonds, which I'm trying to look into. And New York State doesn't require that insurance for judges. They're in New York State, one of the few states where you can't have any cameras, in the court systems. The federal level doesn't care, or they're so overwhelmed maybe by the problem that they dismiss all pro se cases with a standardized packet back. You can appeal to have it heard if a judge violates your First Amendment. And it's hard enough for pro se litigants to navigate all of this. I
mean, I've even went to the appeals court and they just sat on it for 3 months and then dismissed it. So where is the justice?
And in the third department runs the attorney for the child program too. So it's this is the same attorney for the child who physically attacked me on the stand. Spat in my face and was like waving his hand, like, and that's scary already when you're on the stand trying to conduct a trial, by yourself, not knowing the law, and they use that against you. Like, you can't ask that question, you can't answer it this way, and you're like, okay, well, all right, so it's a violation of due process, and during this trial they try to have as little evidence as that they could. And even in this judge's decision, he didn't cite one piece of evidence that I had in his decision. Not one piece of evidence of where the theft of the family business, his record, this conduct. I had evidence after evidence of the paramour running a BDSM brothel not a brothel, but I don't know what she was doing, conducting a BDSM business out of the children's home. And she admitted to it. She admitted to stealing documents out of my house. And, I had witnesses saying, yes, Luke sexually assaulted me too. And it's all not even a word in the decision, which is in the link below. You can read the decision, and then orders me to pay $139,000.
It's so terrible. He ordered you indigent, and then he's totally flip-flopping and wanting this money out. That's a personality disorder right there. He should have a psych eval.
Yes, but how do you get that?
I don't know, but there's got to be legislation passed on all these individuals. Well, for instance, police and nurses and doctors have to have drug evals and, random drug evals and random urine tests, whatever. They should be doing this with
Mhm.
the judiciary along with psychological evaluations. I would say maybe just to be every 2 years. They should do a psychological evaluation, independent, not by a court evaluator, but we're talking about like a real one from like Blue Cross Blue Shield, sending you to
Mhm.
someone completely different off the grid from the courthouse.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's all, you know, court evaluations, mental health evaluations are a problem here in New York as well. And there is legislation, I believe it's CARES law that's trying to be passed in New York State to damper that. So, you have these extremely expensive court evaluations put on place on these parents by um, these judges. And I think there is legislation trying to temper that, a little bit, not to put as much weight, because um, I've had 2 court evaluations in my case as well. And again, lots of evidence, towards the court evaluator, and it was ignored as
Mhm.
well by them. Tons
Oh, they
of
do this.
binder. This I actually have it right here. Tons and tons and tons and tons of images of the paramour who lives in the house, like roasting genitals in the backyard for sexual pleasure. And the Sarah, her name's Miss Couple, if you want to Google her stuff, 18 or older.
Yeah.
um, going to parades and being, dressing up as ponies for sexual pleasure and trying to she's on, YouTube saying like, trying to interact as a sexualized pony, trying to interact with children. And she's has an Amazon special saying with her sex slave in Rensselaer County, in the same county, saying that I can't wait to pass down my sex slave letters to my children one day. Very proud, very proud of this. Like, and it's a lifestyle, where I don't have any criminal history, with any of this, and they think that, this judge think that's okay. That there's something wrong with this judge, that, registered sex offender running a BDSM out of the children's home, like, oh, and they all made the excuses like, oh, what people do behind bedroom doors is no business. Like, they're running this business out of the children's home, and they have full custody and put the mother in jail for speaking out about it. It's a lifestyle. It's not just, a kink that you do.
Right.
And she's very proud of that. Like, she's engaging with children, admitted. She puts it out in the world that she can't wait to introduce, her sex slave to the children. Like, that's clear evidence in the court. Other women coming forward say, yes, Luke sexually assaulted me. Oh, well, we're going to put that in deaf ears and imprison the mom instead, and get away with it.
Now, I don't know if I asked you this before, but how old is McGinty now? Because the author, Francesca Amato, wrote about him in her book, Punished for Protecting. So I wonder how old this fellow is. I don't know if you know.
I don't know how old he is, but I think he's I would say in his 50s or 60s,
Ugh.
perhaps. So almost retiring. So he'll probably, if he gets in enough trouble with the media, he might just up and retire and leave a mess behind. That's kind of what happened to a different judge in Rensselaer County, Judge Cholakis.
Uh-huh.
If you Google her, Walker versus Cholakis, I sued her for the initial order where she gave the father full custody after we had a hearing saying that the father took the children to a BDSM studio. We had a hearing on that. The lawyer admitted that the father took the kids to a BDSM studio, and this judge gave him full custody in the initial order because she said that I was Buddhist based on my religious rights. And that's also in the link. And I sued her, and with 6 months, maybe a year, it could have been, might have been closer to a year, she just retired. So a lot of judges will just retire and still get their fat pensions by New York State. So that's if they get in enough trouble, they'll end up just retiring and still collecting, the big fat checks.
I think I read here, if I'm wrong, he's 64.
Yeah.
He's getting up there.
Yeah, so he probably doesn't care, he probably is going to retire by the next election, and get his $300,000 a year or whatever it is in retirement. And he doesn't care. He's on his way out, so he doesn't care about the press and the media, and he's going to do as much retaliatory damage as he can before he's going to show me who's boss before he retires, and other parents as well.
And we need to let the tax.
You can.
Yeah. I see here in change.org, there's a petition to impeach Anthony McGinty, and now it's saying Ulster County Family Court Judge.
Yes, he is.
Well, I don't know what it takes to impeach him, but I don't know when. Let me see when this came out. What year did this come out? I just wonder.
I believe that's with Francesca, and I believe it's probably a few years old on that one.
This is just terrible. I mean,
yeah, so Judge McGinty is probably going to retire within a year. And he's going to leave all this down. That's the powers that be will probably, if he gets in enough trouble, just retire and collect your check, and it'll all go away. Judge Cholakis did the same thing.
Well, they can think they're getting away with that.
Yes.
The judge I prayed for months and months for God to remove him out of my life. And God acted pretty quick, because I guess the case was over towards the end of 2015, and he died March 2nd of 2016, which is kind of a strange date, because on March 2nd, 2015 is when he took my kids away from me based on false allegations.
Yeah.
On top of being colluded with the opposing attorney. They were BFFs. So what goes around comes around in some weird way. But, I want people to know miracles happen.
Yeah, it's pretty egregious what these lower court judges, the power that they have.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no accountability. It's a joke within New York State.
As well as the clerks.
Complain, to the Office of, Judicial Conduct, and it's all these standardized letters. It's like they don't even read it, The judge is allowing a sexual predator, to physically assault court-ordered supervisors, to, run BDSM brothels out of the home. It's all good. The attorney for the child can, physically, be aggressive towards you. It's fine. We'll allow it. Like, it's a joke.
Oh, it is. With him
We're gonna
spitting on you. Oh,
Yes. I was on the stand and I have the transcript of saying, you're scaring me because but there's no cameras allowed in the courtroom. So it's my word against everybody else's.
oh.
The attorney for the child, Douglas Broda, objected 360 times during my testimony.
Oh.
Trying not to get any evidence in like it mattered, because the judge didn't even cite one piece of evidence of mine. And he was allowed to, conduct in a way where he objected 360 times. He spat in my face. He got physically aggressive with me to the stand. He admitted he was biased for this registered sex offender. I don't know, maybe they're all clients of Mistress Couple. I mean, they're all in Rensselaer County. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
maybe they're all into that.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me as well, but I don't know. We can, I guess you would have to sue the brothel to, subpoena those records.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, if it's personality disorders with these judges and these attorneys, or if it's, retaliation for exposing that they favor registered sex offenders, and they favor, sex workers, and they make excuses, for them. It's bizarre. Like, I have no answer for that, for why they favor, these judges and attorneys favor rapists and BDSM sex workers. I don't know. It's a mystery.
I just would be beside myself if I was your mother, worried about you possibly going to prison. It really isn't jail. It's really going to be prison.
Yep,
over $139,000.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I obviously am going to appeal this order, but being in this system, this legal and judicial abuse for 5 years, I don't give much stock to the third department feels doing anything or correcting. And in New York State, I don't know if it's like this in other states, but they can either most likely what happens is that they can tell the judge, even if you do win, which is a slight chance on appeals, they tell the judge to correct all these mistakes. And this is under appeals. And I did ask the judge, like, can we just stay till higher court listens to this? And he goes, no. How about you recuse yourself? No, with prejudice, meaning you can't file recusal motions again. He has all the power to decide for himself whether he's conducting, fairly. He gets to decide himself, not anybody else. And of course, he's going to say, yeah, he's going to stand by his decision. He's not all of a sudden saying, oh, maybe I was wrong about the rapist. Maybe it was wrong.
Isn't there a president judge or an administrative judge above him in Rensselaer County that can say something?
It usually goes through the Center for Judicial Conduct. Any complaints, there is a head judge. The federal courts are supposed to be the one that is supposed to keep these judges, lower court judges, somewhat accountable. The Center for Judicial Conduct is supposed to keep these judges somewhat accountable, and they don't. You can reach out to your local legislators. I've known other folks who have done that, and everything's just ignored, in the trash. I've reached out to a lot of local papers. They haven't, gotten back to me. So we'll see. I don't know. Thank you for having me on this
Oh,
podcast.
you'll be
Hopefully
back.
spread the word. Try not to, try not to be into Rensselaer County. I'm hoping to make
Yeah.
enough noise that somebody's somewhere is going to notice, saying this is like ridiculous that these judges have, this much control. A
Mhm.
judge that's not even voted into this county.
Disgusting. But I,
Yeah.
I'm going to have you back on again for another update. But how
Okay.
can people reach you if they want to help or have questions?
Yes. We'll be putting up the link to the press release that has my information. I'm
Okay.
Alicia Clark, ALISHA CLARK on Facebook.
Mhm.
And that's my email as well. But hopefully we'll link something here to find the press release where my email and Facebook, social media is there as well.
So this is up in the air. You don't know exactly what date this will all happen?
Well, it's ordered. So I currently have a warrant for my arrest out right now in New York State. So I'm going to appeal this. I'm going to try to do a stay with this because I wasn't even properly served on this. The attorney didn't even properly serve me. So I'm hoping to get maybe a stay and figure something out. So could happen anytime.
Well, we will keep in touch and I will have you back on, but don't jump off. Slam the Gavel is a podcast, help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I am your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Alicia Clark here in the future and other exciting guests. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And you'll be back.
Yes.